All right, hello, my gems. We today are going to talk about surface area of 3D figures. So we have already spoken about volume when it comes to 3D shapes. So remember, volume is whatever your 3D shape is, you're taking it and you're filling it up with like a liquid, right? So it's how much can this container hold? Today, we're going to be talking about surface area. And what surface area is not how much can it hold on the inside, but rather if I were to wrap this 3D shape with like wrapping, how much wrapping paper would I need to cover it on the exterior, on the outside? So this happens to be a triangular prism. So this particular shape, I would need to have enough area to cover the top triangle and the bottom triangle, the two bases. And then I have 3 rectangles. So I'd have to come up with the area of those 3 rectangles. And then I'd be putting all of that all of that surface area together to get the total amount of area needed for the outside. So because we're talking about 2 now, like 3D, we need to make sure we know our area for some 2D shapes. So is obviously, we remember this one, it's length times width or base times height. The area formula for a rectangle is again the same thing, length times width or base times height. A triangle is 1/2 base times height or base times height divided by 2. And a circle is pi times radius squared, pi r squared. So those are the area formulas of each one. What we are allowed to do when it comes to finding surface area, you've got some choices. Here I have some kind of like formulas for you that you can follow along with, or the other option, if you don't want to use the specific formula, is, like I said before, determining the area of each one of these. These are called faces, each one of the faces of the 3D shapes, and then adding them all together. So this one happens to be a cube. And what I can do is I can show you, this is, if I get it out, okay, maybe that's not going to. I'll do the triangular prism. What you can do is, again, this one is finding the area of the 3 angles and then the triangle top, triangle on the bottom. 3D shape, and you can open it up. This is called or 2D flat kind of shape here. And so again, you would then measure and you would find the area of each one of the rectangles, the area of the 2 triangles using these formulas right here. And then you combine or add them all together at the end. So let's take a look at number 1. It says calculate the surface area by finding the area of each face individually, each face individually. So that means each square or each angle individually. So then I'm going to do, this is obviously a rectangular prism. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the area of the top and the bottom rectangle. So this is the shape here. Okay, so top and bottom. Okay, now we know how to find the area of a rectangle. It's just length times width or base times height. Okay, so my base is 13 and my height is 7. So 17. And then I'm going to take that whole thing after I multiply those 2 and I'm going to multiply it by 2 because you've got 1 at the bottom and you have 1 at the top. Okay, so I'm going to do 7 times 13, then multiply by 2, and I'm going to get 182. So that's the area of the top and bottom. Now I'm going to do we'll do the 2 sides. So side, you've got this bottom piece is 9, and then this height right here is the same as this height over here, which would be 9. So for the sides, it's 7 times 9. And remember, there are 2 of them. So I'm going to multiply 7 times 9, and then I'm going to multiply it times 2 because there are 2 really. So that gives a total of 1. And so that would be both of the sides there. And then the last 22 is front and back. Okay, base of the front is 13, the height of the front is 9, so it's 9 basic, and then again multiply it times 2 because there are two, there's a front and a back. That gives me a total of 234. So total surface area, I add together my three areas here. So I'm going to add together 126, 182, and 234. So my total surface area is 542 feet. And because we're talking about an area, surface area, it's feet squared. So remember, area is square, volume is feet. That's easy. So you can find the area of each face individually and then add them all together. Your second choice is you can physically use, the equation for each individual type of 3D shape. So all prisms have the same equation when it comes to surface area. It is capital P times H plus 2 times big B. Now, perimeter, the P stands for the perimeter, and it is the perimeter of the base. So whatever shape your base is, you have to find the perimeter. And in order to find the perimeter, right, you just add those sides together of whatever your base shape is. The H stands for height, and it is the height of the member, just like volume, the height side connects the bases together. So it doesn't really have to be up and down, but like it could be on it connects together. And the last one, the big B, we've done before. The last one means area of the base. So you do have to find the area of whatever that base shape is. Okay, and then we're plugging it into that equation. So let's do an example. Number 2 is a prism, and this is a triangular prism, right? So this one, like a pen. So I'm going to put triangular here. And that is important because the triangle then is our base. So we want to make sure that we keep that in mind. Now, I need to know the perimeter of the base. I need to know the height of the solid and the area of the base. So first one is the perimeter. So which one I highlight here? I just need to highlight one of the triangles. Okay, so the perimeter is a perimeter of the triangle, meaning the sides together. So the side's 5, the side's 12. This should be the parallel, so it should be 10. So it's 5 plus 12 plus 10. So my perimeter is 27. There's my perimeter. Easy enough. Number 2 is height of my solid. And remember, height is the side that connects the two triangles together. So I've got my triangle here and here. The side that connects those two triangles is this 3. So the height of my prism is a 3. So it's kind of on its side here. And then the last step is my big B area of my base. Again, we know it is a triangle. Let's find the area of a triangle. We do base times height divided by 2. Now, if you're looking at this triangle here, do not fall for the trick. Do not put 5 as the height. 5 is not the height of this triangle. If you're looking for base and height, you always want to look for the 90-degree symbol. The two sides that make up the 90 will be your base and your height. So here's my 90-degree angle right here, which means these two sides are the base and height of my triangle. So I'm finding essentially this triangle back. Which is the same triangle in the front. So the base of that triangle is this piece here, which is 12 times the height of that triangle, just that pink triangle, is 4.1. I multiply those two together and then I divide by 2. So I get a total of 24.6, and that is my big B. So now my final step is information and plug into the equation. So surface area equals perimeter times height plus 2 times big B. So remember the P is my perimeter, and we said our perimeter was 27 times the height of the whole prism, we said was 3, plus 2 times my big B, we solved the area of a base was 4.6. Okay, so ordered operation says I need to multiply first before I can add. So 27 times 3 is 81. 2 times 24.6 is 49.2. So my last step is to just add 81 and 49.2. I get that my surface area is 130.2. That is kilometers squared because we're talking about area. So I have the option of either doing the first method, which is finding the area of each face, or you have the option of doing the second one, which is just plugging into the equation. For the remainder of our examples here, I am going to just use the equations just to kind of keep it easy for us. Okay, number 3, we're going to find the surface area of each pyramid. Okay. Using the equation here. Now, the again stands for perimeter, so seen this before. Big B stands for area of base, easy peasy. The only difference here is this L. This L here is called the slant height. So the L stands for the height of like one of the side triangles there, but it's not the height of the whole pyramid, because the height of the pyramid, right, has to be exactly straight up and down 90 degrees. This is called a slanted height because it's literally slanted. So if I were to take a look at, here is my triangular, or sorry, my square pyramid. So it's got a square base and it comes up to a point at the top. The height of this would be, if you were to look straight down from here down to the center, this side over here that I have drawn, that is considered the slanted height, right? Because it's not directly up and down, it is, so that's what that cursive L there is representing. Okay, so let us start with the, well, actually, before we do anything, let's just identify what type of pyramid this is. So the base shape here is a square. So this is a square pyramid, and that's important to know the base shape because first thing we want to do is find the perimeter of this, and perimeter means distance around the bottom. And our perimeter, we're getting up all of the sides, so it is there. So we're 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8, 4 of them. And that can be 30. So there's my P. My L is my slanted height. So in my picture here, my slanted height is this one, which is 11.7. I've got my perimeter, I've got my slant height. Next thing I need is my big B. And remember, big B stands for area of the base, excuse me. So my base, again, is a square. And to find the area of a square, I do base times height or length times width. And ours are length with ours, so it's 8, which is 60. My big B is 64. Now, with all that information, finally, let's plug it into the. I like, instead of putting it as 1/2, I like to put it as a decimal. I think it's just easier that way. So I like to write it as 0.5, right? A half times P times L plus big B. So I like to write it like that and then plug in from there. It's the same thing. I think this is easier. Oh, wow. Guys. Okay, so my P value is my perimeter is 32. My slant height, my L value is 11.7. Plus my big B is 64. Order of operations says I better multiply before I add. So if I multiply a half times 32 times 11.7, I get 187.2. And if I add that to 64, I get that my surface area is 250.2 meters square. Because again, we're talking about area. Next one. Don't write big for number 4. So number 4, first thing again, is we're just going to identify what type of pyramid it is. Obviously, this is a square pyramid again. So that's nice. Okay, so we're going to start by figuring out the perimeter of my square. So my perimeter again means distance around base. So mine would be 16 plus 16 plus 16, or 4 times 16. Right, there's 4 then. So my perimeter is 64. Great, lovely. Next I need is my L, or my slanted height. Now, you're going to notice there is no slanted height here. I give you the height of the entire pyramid. Wow, I'm so sorry. But I do not give you the height of the slanted pyramid. So what you need to figure out this piece here. You know what this is making, friends? I'm excited to see this. It's making a right triangle. And you know 2 of the sides of the right triangle, but you don't know the third. So this is the Pythagorean theorem. I'm going to redraw it out over here. So I'm this height, this is 3. Now this side length right here is not 16. It goes from the center to the edge, so it's half of 16, which would give me 8. And then I'm trying to figure out this piece over here, which is like my slanted height, my L value. So we do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Remember, the only important one is the c value. And for this problem, my c value is the slanted one. So I don't know that one. So I'm going to keep it as c squared. I put it as L squared, whatever. And then the other 2 numbers go as my A and B. So 3 squared and 8 squared. So where did I get? Oh no, 3 is right. Okay. So 3 squared gives me 9. 8 squared gives me 64. And just then I add the 2 together and I get 73 is C value, but then my final step gets C by itself, so I square root both sides. I get that my C value, or my slant height, is about, I'm going to round it to 8.5. Okay. Ooh, it was a lot of work, but I'm not done. That is now my slant height. My L value is 8.5. So I did all that work just for the L. I still have more to do because I've got the perimeter and the slant height, but I still need the big B, which is my area of my base. So my B value, my base is again a square. That base times length times width. So mine is 16 times 16. Excuse me, which 256. So that's my baby. And my final step then is to now take all this information and plug it into the surface area equation. So again, I like to put it as 0.5 1/2 times P times L plus big B. So now I substitute in. My P is 64. My L is 8.5. And my B value is 2.6. Again, function says it multiply both add. So I get 2, 2, And the final step is I add it together with 256. I get that the surface area is 528 feet squared. And we're done. So that was a lot of work because I didn't give you one of the unknown side lengths there. Okay, so all prisms use this equation. All pyramids use this equation. And notice it's the same equation. Well, it's a similar equation, I'm sorry. There's just a difference between height versus slant height when it comes to the regular pyramid. Okay. A cylinder. Cylinders are easy because they're just a plug and chug moment. The only thing you need for this is the radius and the height. So this is 2 pi RH plus 2 pi R squared. For this one, you do have to use the formula. You cannot do the surface area of the pieces individually because you will get the wrong answer. So you do have to use this formula for the problem. So let's take this picture. Radius is given me figured out. The diameter is 15, so that means that my radius would be half of it. So my radius is 7.5. And then the height of my cylinder, the side that connects the two circles together, is 9. So all I'm doing is plug and chug. So surface area equation is 2 pi RH plus 2 pi R squared. The only thing to be careful of here is just making sure we go direct with PEMDAS. All right. So we're going to put 2 pi, my radius is 7.5, my height is 9 plus 2 pi, and then 7.5 squared. Okay. Now, options is I better do my exponents first, which would be this right here. 7.5 squared. So I'm going to do that first, and that gives me 56.25. I don't want to use a marker. 1 second. Okay. And now that I just have some multiplication. So I'm going to multiply on the left here. And I'm also going to multiply on the right. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make sure I multiply all the constants first, and I'm going to leave it in exact terms. So on my calculator, I'm just going to multiply the 2 times the 7.5 times the 9. And get 35 plus, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to multiply 2 and the 6.2. Which is 112 pi. Now, to get an exact answer, all I would do is add together the two numbers and leave it in terms of pi. So if I have 135 pies and then an 112, wow, 0.5 pies. If I just add these two together, I get that my surface area is 247.5 pi meters squared. So that's the exact version. And I ask for a rounded answer, then that means you're actually going to multiply this time in your calculator. If you actually put that in, you'll get 7.5 meters squared. That's the rounded answer. Personally, I'm not sure which one they're going to give you on the exam. I would assume they're going to give you this one, so I'd be more prepared for the exact answer rather than the rounded answer. All right, question. The surface area is 51.84 inches squared. If the diameter of the can is 3 inches, find the height of the can. So anytime I ask you to find something that's not the surface area, that means it's going to be an algebra problem and you're going to have to solve for the unknown variable. Now, I know the diameter is 3. That means the radius has to be half it. So the radius is 1.5. I already have the volume for the surface right here. So we're gonna equation. I'm gonna say don't big. All right, and we're going to put in what we know. We know the surface area, so I'm going to substitute that in. I know the radius is 1.5. And then 2 pi 1.5 squared. Okay. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get, well, actually, I'm going to do the 1.5 squared first because order of operations. So if you do that, this gives you 2.25. And then just like before, I'm going to get rid of, like, I'm going to keep everything in terms of pi because it's going to make my life easier. So here, multiply 2, I'm doing different color. We'll multiply 2 and 5 gives me 3 pi 8. Right, I use the pi, use the 8 plus, and then I'm gonna do the same over here on the right. I'm gonna put together the 2 and the 2.25. I'm gonna multiply those two together to get 4.5 pi. Leave my surface area. So now you're trying to get the h by itself, which means everything to the right, you want to get over to the left side. So what we're going to do is we're going to subtract 4.5 pi from both sides. So what you might want to do is put 4.5 pi into your calculator to just get a number here, and then we can move it over. So 4.5 times pi equals, that's 14 point, we'll do 14.1. So we're going to subtract the 14.1 on both sides. So that cancels these out. And if I subtract on the left, I get 37.7 equals 3 pi h. And then my final step is get h by itself. So I'm going to divide by 3 and by pi. Divide by 3 and by pi. So when I go to put this in my calculator, I'm going to put 37.7 divided by 3 equals, and also divided by pi equals. I get 4 point. So my height is 4 inches. And there we've done an algebra problem now with surface area. Okay, last few. Find surface area of the cones below. Again, cones are easy. The only thing you really need, you need the radius, you need the height, and you need the slant height, and then you plug it in. So for number 7, I noticed that I have the diameter is 27. So I want to take half of 27 to get me a radius, which is 13.5. I know that my L value, which is my slant height, I know that my slant height is this number right here, which is 32.9. That's my slant height. And I don't need anything else for the equation. So I'm going to start substituting. So surface area is pi r L plus pi r squared. Things in. My radius is 13.5. My slant height is 32.9 plus pi times my radius squared, which is 13.5 squared. Notice it's like super similar or kind of the same steps here. First thing I'm going to do is exponent. So I'm going to square my 13.5 squared. If I do that, I get 182.25. And then time for some multiplication. So if I start on the left, 13.5 times 32.5 gives me 444.15 pi plus this just stays what it is, 182.25 pi. And if I'm exacting, all I have to do is add the two terms together. And I get that my surface area is 626.4 pi millimeters squared. Or if you wanted to actually put that into your calculator and make it a rounded answer, it's about 1,967.9 milliliters. You want an exact answer. First, again, I say make sure you know how to do it. Right, to be that's probably gonna be the longer test. Almost there, friends. Number 8. So I am given this piece here, which is the height. I'm also given this piece over here, which is the slanted height, which is my L value. The other thing I need, though, for this equation is my radius. Now, I do not know my radius. That is no, but this right here, just your favorite, right? And a right means you can use the Pythagorean theorem. And I'm so excited. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Remember, the C value is always your slanted one. It's always the one across from 90. And so that would be the 27.3. The other two don't matter what order you put them in. So I'm going to put 25.2 plus B squared because I don't know what it is. Order of operations say I need to do the exponents first. So this one is 6. 25.2 squared is 635.04 squared is 7.429. Then I subtract 635 from both sides to be all by itself. I get B squared equals 110.25. And then final step is to square root both sides by pushing shift and then x squared. And I get that my x value or my radius equals 10.5. So my radius is now 10.5. So I did all that work. It's time to plug into the equation. So this area again is IRL plus pi squared. So that's pi times 10.5 times 27.3 plus pi times 10.5 squared. Again, you always want to make sure you do your exponents first. So 10.5 squared is 110.25. And then I'm going to do it so that I have an exact answer. I'm going to multiply 10.5 times 27.3. I get 286.65 pi plus 110.25 pi. Okay, last step is add those two numbers together. And I get my surface area. My exact answer is 396.9 pi inches squared. And if you want to multiply the get an answer, you could. All right, last two. Surface area of the figures below. Oh, I think you're gonna love this one. Spheres are so easy. The only thing you need to know for a sphere is the radius and nothing more. So the surface area for a sphere is 4 times pi times radius squared. That's it. So in this problem here, number 9, I give you the diameter 30 with the radius of that. So that is 16 enough. I'm gonna brain fart, right? And then all you have is plug in the so surface area is 4 pi times your radius squared. Only thing you need to make sure is you do this first. Right here, always make sure you're doing exponents first, following order of operations. That's 272.25. I take multiply it times 4. I get my area is 1089 pi centimeters squared. And so I love spheres, are so easy. Now, a regular sphere surface area is 4 pi r squared. A hemisphere, which is half, hemisphere is 3 pi r squared. Okay, so you've got essentially the same thing, it's just a 3 instead of a 4. Okay, last question, number 10. Find the surface area of the figure below. So you will notice in number 10, this is called a composite figure. It has more than one shape to it. It looks like an ice cream cone. So you've got a physical cone here, and then you've got a hemisphere underneath it, which means I need to find the surface area of each one individually and then add them both together. So find the surface area of a cone. Wow, I really need to take a nap, friends. Okay, cone, again, we just go back up to our notes. Cone is pi RL plus pi R squared. So our radius L is pi. Obviously, that's the diameter. So I'm going to subtract, I'm going to take half of 9 to get my diameter 4.5. Or should I my radius? My slant height is given to me. It's this one right here. This is 13. Plus pi times, again, my radius squared, 4.5 squared. Okay, so before, make sure you're doing the exponents first. So this is 20.25. Okay. And then I do my multiplication first. So 4.5 times 13. This one right here gives me 58.5 pi plus 20.25 pi. Add those two numbers together. I get that the surface area of the cone is 78.75. Obviously meters squared. Oh, 78.75, sorry, pi. Forgot that. Well, that's important. Okay, that's the cone. Now we'll do the hemisphere. So hemisphere is 3 pi r squared. So my radius is the same radius as the cone, it's 4.5. We're going to make sure we square that one first. So it's the same as before. It's still 20.25. And then I multiply that times 3. I get the surface area of the hemisphere is 60.75 pi. So I've got the surface area of the cone, the surface area of the hemisphere. Now to get the total surface area, I need to add together my cone plus my hemisphere. And I'm going to leave it in terms of pi. So I'm literally just going to add the numbers together. And the total surface area is 139.45 pi meters squared. And if you wanted to multiply to get the rounded answer, you could do that as well. Okay, so we are finished. We have now done surface area of 3D shapes. So we're about surface area means the amount of wrapping paper you would need to cover the outside of that 3D shape. So you're now going to go on to your 3 IXL assignments that you have to do. And the expectation is you are getting an 80% on each one. And if you go over the 80%, then remember you are getting some extra. So that helps with full. And I'll see you all. Have a wonderful day, my gems.